when it first started, it was probably as loud as the fire alarm in my building. I mean, it was just unbearable. Now it's as loud as a whisper, if that, and it comes and goes several times a day, but it's pretty much non-existent already. So it was a miracle for me. I really do consider it my miracle in life. So unhesitatingly recommend get it started sooner, the treatment started sooner rather than later, because the sooner it starts, the sooner you're going to feel so much better.
Welcome to the Tinnitus Relief Podcast. I'd like to bring on today's guest, James, who had a significant turnaround with his tinnitus and is now here to share his message of hope and encouragement. James, where are you at today, and how does that compare to where you were when tinnitus was at its worst?
So my tinnitus hit me March 2nd of this year, which is really only 4 months back, and it was just absolutely miserable. I had 2 weeks of literally like, I can't go on like this. I can't do this. There's no way this is going to work. That was compounded by my ENT, wonderful doctor, though he is, saying, you'll have to learn to live with it. There's not much I can do medically. I'm like, really? That's it? Just sent me into tinnitus distress. Fast forward a couple of months after I contacted Treble Health. You guys streamlined the process, got me a call literally within 2 or 3 days of me finding you, and got me working with Dr. Sarah literally within a week, and got the maskers to me in a week. I feel fantastic. I've had a few ups and downs, but mostly it's been ups. I think, it gave me my life back, and that's really the most important thing. Like, my life is back, and I feel great. I didn't want to go on, for a while there. I was like, I can't even live like this. Now it doesn't even bother me.
Let's share your story with everyone who's listening. So we want to know, what did you try that actually worked? What did you try that didn't really work and was a waste of time? What were the mental strategies? What perspective did you have to bring to get you through this period? Just before we do that on a personal level, tell us a little bit about your day-to-day. What do you do for work, and who are you?
So I'm 44 right now. I've been teaching in public schools for 20 years. I'm a high school computer programming teacher, which is an awesome job. I love it. The only problem is it's a very quiet job. So, once I'm done teaching, the lesson is probably 20 or 30 minutes. Then there's 20 minutes of quiet while they're programming the computers. And I'm like, I hear my tinnitus. Oh gosh, I think that made it a lot worse. So as a teacher, I'm blessed with really good health insurance. So when my tinnitus hit, I basically freaked out. I went to my ENT twice. I got a specialist with Michigan Ear Institute, and they all basically told me the same thing. Hey, there's nothing we can do about this. The only one that did was my dentist, who said, hey, maybe you have TMJ. You should get evaluated for that. I didn't have TMJ, but, I tried. So the dentist, 1 out of 4 doctors was the only one that actually gave me any hope. And, call me if you got any questions.
So what are the things that you may have tried or considered that didn't work? Let's talk about those, and then we'll jump into the tools and the advice that you might have for someone else who was where you used to be, who's listening to this. So first off, what are some things that you tried, maybe just waiting and see, and that didn't work? What are some things that you tried that didn't really move the needle for your tinnitus?
The biggest thing was reading stuff online, was going on the internet and just reading all these different people's postings about how they've suffered with tinnitus for years, how, and that freaks you out, because you're like, oh my gosh, this person says they've suffered for 40 years with tinnitus. Why are they suffering 40 years? And is that going to be me? One of your meditation recordings on YouTube, when I typed in tinnitus, tinnitus cures, or I typed something in searching for tinnitus, I found your meditations. I think it was the 7-day challenge, or is that the 7-day challenge?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then when I saw Treble Health does the maskers, I'm like, you know what? This actually helps quite a bit. This meditation is actually getting my attention off tinnitus. I got to give these people a call. I did. And that really worked. I got lucky. I found you guys like within 2 weeks. And so it was 2 weeks of misery. But then literally, when I started talking to Treble Health, even on the initial consultation call, it was like, wow, I feel good. And when I started feeling better, my tinnitus was less bothersome.
Let's go into that. So the tools that you use included the sound therapy devices on your ears, which are also sometimes referred to as maskers. And then additionally, you were doing other things, right? Whether that was guided breathing through a meditation type course or other cognitive behavioral tools, changing our reactions to different thoughts. So what was a day in the life of James when he was cruising in this treatment program?
So a day in the life before the treatment program was get up and hear the ringing in my ears and think, oh no, this is going to be a horrible day. I can't live like this. I can't do this. And the more I thought about it, the worse it got. The more attention I paid to it, the worse it got. And by 12 o'clock, I was like, okay, I'm calling in sick for the afternoon. I just can't work this afternoon. The literally the day I got the maskers, like the day after I got the maskers, the day was get up. Oh, I hear this tinnitus, put in the maskers. First of all, I could hear, which was awesome because I have some hearing loss as well. So that was like, wow, this is really cool. And then secondly was like, okay, this is really nice. Do I hear my tinnitus? Yeah, I do. But you know what? It doesn't bother me as much. It was still bothersome, but not as much.
And what did you practice from the guided breathing or the cognitive behavioral therapy tools on a daily basis or a consistent basis?
So a couple of the exercises that I definitely found incredibly helpful were the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. That was 5 things you can see, 4 things you can smell, and you can turn those around however you want. I'm sure I'm not getting it right because I probably don't practice it right, but I'm trying. The guided
Tell us
breathing,
about that.
the
What is that
counted
method? How
breathing.
would you explain the basics of it, just in terms of what it's supposed to be doing and what it does for you?
So as I understand it and as I practice it, I basically will sit down and I'll say, okay, 5 things that I can see in the room, and I'll describe those 5 things. Like right now, I'm looking at a door, and I describe the door. I'm looking at a box, an Amazon box. I describe the Amazon box, and I go through the 5 things I can see. The 4 things, that I can feel, using your 5 senses, really, basically. The 4 things I can feel, I can feel the table. It's a smooth table. What's the texture of it like? Really mindfulness. 3 things that I can smell. Do I smell popcorn down the hallway? I'm in the school and they make popcorn all the time. So I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. Okay, I can smell the popcorn. 2 things, that I can hear. Obviously, for me, it was always, well, I can hear my tinnitus. But then as soon as I started describing my tinnitus, and that's one of the big things that Dr. Sarah taught me, once I started describing it, it just didn't seem to have as much power as I was giving it. And then one thing that you can, I think one thing you can taste, I would take out, a Jolly Rancher or a Lifesaver from my drawer, hey, I can taste this, think about it. Just being more present in the moment. So that was the exercise as I see it, as I practice it. And it did do a lot of good for me. And I still use it to this day, 4 or 5 times a day when I feel, I hear tinnitus. Okay, I'm going to practice this exercise.
It's a good one when we're feeling a bit stuck in an anxiety loop or stuck in our head. Tinnitus is well known to cause those kinds of negative thinking patterns, and being aware of it and saying, okay, I need to stop and I want to reset my system here, practice this mindful awareness of the different senses. It is a good way to stop that negative feedback loop of tinnitus, worrying, fear, fight or flight response, louder tinnitus. That's so key. I'm glad that you learned that. Well, you're an example of someone who really took, or what we call early intervention and being proactive about their health, which generally is a good thing. Did you ever have thoughts of, maybe this will just get better on its own, maybe I should wait? Because I think a lot of people are in that boat, and sometimes, the first few weeks we might say, okay, let's monitor it a little more closely. But at some point there has to be a threshold of, this isn't just going away on its own. When am I going to take action on and try to do something on this? So what is your advice or experience there?
I would say first and foremost, from what I've seen from the experts I've heard, yourself included, Dr. Sarah, and several others, there's a great book that I read that actually helped a lot as well, called A Roaring Silence. I highly recommend it. Frode Singsas, I think is the man's name. He's Norwegian. And I remember getting that book shortly after the maskers. And basically he said, I was desperate. I did everything I could to make this better, and that's my recommendation, take action. Life favors those who take action. And so that was a conversation I had with my wife, actually. She said, well, why don't you wait and see what happens? Strangely enough, she actually got it too, almost the same time I did. Hers went away. So I was okay with that. I said, I will gladly take this for you. But anyway, I'm digressing. Point being, I would recommend everyone take action to the point where, don't wait, because I still have it, but it doesn't bother me. And I guarantee you that's because I took action and called Treble Health.
Love that. Love that. So let's get tactical now with your advice for people who are trying to focus during their daytime hours, who work or live in quiet environments, which is most of us being indoors. We know that when the room is quiet, tinnitus can be the hardest to deal with, or the loudest. So what's your advice that you've learned, tools that have helped you systems that have helped you when you're teaching your classes or when you're in a quiet environment?
I think the biggest thing is the sound therapy with the maskers, especially. There have been times where I just had to turn the maskers up a little bit. I said, okay, I need some kind of relief. I need to turn these up. Obviously, in a school setting or an office setting, you can't necessarily put a JBL Charge 3 on your desk and crank up the Zen tones. So sound therapy to me is, I think, the number one thing that has really helped me get through that quiet environment. You can stop and do those exercises like I was describing, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can stop and you can really close your eyes and meditate for a little bit in a quiet space. If you have access to earbuds or whatnot, you can put on a meditation, listen to some Zen tones. But again, like I said, that can be difficult to do in an office environment. Hearing aids are usually a lot more acceptable than putting on earpods, especially when you're teaching. So I think those strategies really helped me tremendously. And I know for a fact that they helped another person that I work with who has tinnitus. I recommended the sound therapy, and he says, yeah, it really does help me. It's really helping me get through my day.
I love to hear that. And for those who may be wondering, how can I learn about whether sound therapy will help me or learn about different options? We'll put a link on the screen right now where you can book a free consultation with Treble Health, just like James did to get his journey started. James, would you mind showing us the maskers you're referring to, the sound therapy devices? If you have those available, would you mind showing us how they look and what kind of features they have?
Yeah, sure. So I have the Wide X, and I believe this is the Wide X Smart.
Correct.
So they're hearing aids about an L shape. Sometimes they come in different shapes. I actually had different shapes first, but I usually wear glasses. I can't wear contacts because my eyes dry out, so I can barely see the screen right now. But so these, just pop them in the morning. They're about maybe 1/8 of an ounce, if that. Just pop them in the ears, and they've been a godsend for me. They're fantastic.
The piece that goes in your ear, does it fully close your ear, or is there some natural opening and hearing that you can hear other sounds too?
Oh no, there's definitely natural openings. In fact, if I show the dome to it, you can see that it's actually an open dome. There's that's hard to see on that, but the dome is open. So when I put them in, it's kind of like wearing the old school Apple earpods, or even less than that actually. Like anything that's going on outside, if somebody were to take a small amount of air and blow it in there, you could definitely feel it. It does not close the ear up. It's actually quite comfortable.
And that's important so that you can still hear natural sounds around you, ambient noise. And in your case, you have some benefits to your hearing clarity, your ability to hear conversations and soft speech, right?
Absolutely. I put these on this morning. I didn't have them on for about 2 hours because I was chasing the kids around and trying to get things. And I'm like, oh, I need to put my maskers in, which is actually a great thing because, wait a minute, I didn't even notice my tinnitus until I thought about it. But then as soon as I put them on, I'm like, boy, your iPad is just way too loud, Meredith. Can you turn that down? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can actually hear. That's not too loud. I actually hear it now. So it helped me to hear a lot better. I can hear students ask questions across the room now, where before it was kind of mumbled.
I love that. That's really important because often tinnitus is related to a high pitch hearing loss. And when we treat the hearing loss along with the tinnitus, it leads to a better tinnitus treatment outcome. And those devices that are right now programmed for tinnitus and hearing loss for you, they can be adjusted so that they're only programmed for hearing loss at some point in the future when you don't need the tinnitus features anymore. Naturally, one might think then tinnitus must be permanent at its current level, but that's not true. Is that what you've experienced? I'd like to hear your personal experience with that so far.
Yeah, my level, at least to the degree that I hear my tinnitus, my level of hearing tinnitus has dropped significantly. When it first started, it was probably as loud as the fire alarm in my building. I mean, it was just unbearable. Now it's as loud as a whisper, if that, and it comes and goes several times a day, but it's pretty much non-existent already. So I've definitely experienced, although my hearing loss is still there, my tinnitus really isn't.
And at some point, we'll adjust those devices so that they're programmed more or completely for your hearing loss and not for your tinnitus, at least in the default setting. That means it gives you that versatility of, okay, now my tinnitus treatment is done. I don't need anything for my tinnitus, but I would like to use these devices to hear more clearly. Is that how you approach the path forward as well?
I think so. Yeah. I love the way the devices help me hear better. And so really it's a multi-purpose feature. treating the tinnitus. And then once that tinnitus treatment is no longer necessary and tinnitus is manageable, going forward with the devices. I would never give up these hearing aids at this point. 44, I don't want hearing aids, but now I can't imagine living without them.
Understood. Well, really happy that you're hearing better and able to teach and hear the students' soft voices and your family, and being in places where people talk softly or places with background noise like a restaurant or a gathering. So all those situations are really important to hear your best possible. James, what advice do you have for someone who is a few months into their tinnitus journey? They've been waiting, hoping that their tinnitus would get a lot better. It's gotten a little better, maybe 20 or 30% better, but it hasn't gone away, or it certainly hasn't been fully treated. What advice would you have for them?
Treat it as soon as you can. I say call Treble Health because you were my first call, but definitely get treatment as soon as possible. Even if you've been a couple months in, I know a gentleman that I teach with who's had it for 2 or 3 years. He said used to play in loud heavy metal bands, and I said, "Hey, you've got to get this done as soon as possible. You've got to get some help." I mean, it was a miracle for me. I really do consider it my miracle in life. So unhesitatingly recommend get it started sooner. The treatment started sooner rather than later, because the sooner it starts, the sooner you're going to feel so much better.
I love that. And for anyone who's listening who wants to speak with Treble Health and have a free consultation, click the link above the screen. We'll be happy to get you started on your next steps. James, I really appreciate you being here. Keep track of all these future software engineers and computer programmers over there in Michigan. Thanks so much. And if you have any last words for the Treble Health community, the floor is yours. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. I just wanted to, and thank you, Treble Health. You've given me my life back. There are options. There is treatment options. There are managed options for tinnitus. By all means, unhesitatingly recommend Treble Health. It was the best experience I've had in 44 years of healthcare. So please give them a call. That would be my recommendation, my advice. From one teacher to anybody else listening, Treble Health is the best. They're tops.
Thanks, James. Talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dr. Ben.